Recently, the All Elite Wrestling roster arrived in the great state of California to kick off a string of shows that will culminate at AEW Revolution in Los Angeles, California. But will this latest stint in California feel like a lengthy campaign, or will it feel simply like a 3-hour tour, a 3-hour tour, a 3-hour tour? You know, given what actually happened to the crew when that 3-hour tour turned into a few seasons of shenanigans and Skipper, where's the little buddy? Maybe I shouldn't talk about that as if it was just a blip on the goddamn radar. But AEW towns, they are ready to just take over California. First, starting with this particular program. I'm John Renton with my review of AEW Dynamite from the Frontwave Arena in Oceanside, California. Frontwave, Oceanside, aha, I see what they did there. So yes, we are almost at AEW Revolution, just a few more shows. And I want to say before I dive into this show more, that if you notice after, say, WrestleMania week, that I'm doing more sporadic weekly reviews, there's going to be a reason for that. I'm kind of getting burned out, and while I will say that I enjoyed some aspects of this show, some AEW weekly programming is just beating me down because there are things I just don't like. There are talents I don't want to fucking see. And it's not like, oh, I want to see them get beat up. Like, no, I'm kind of sick of this stuff. So, that being said, if you see more sporadic weekly shows for WWE and AEW going forward from May, into the summer and into the fall, my apologies in advance. So, the Frontwave Arena, again, in Oceanside, apparently in the environs of San Diego, California, has a 7,500 seating capacity, and they had around 3,400 according to WrestleTix. I will say that the venue looked pretty good, they shot it well, and the crowd was pretty loud. So, they managed to actually, even make me tolerate the commentary, because, one, I was actually able to focus a little bit more on the action, and even though Shivani doesn't really add all that much, Excalibur is just totally goddamn lost. Taz at least seemed to have a little more energy and pep in his step. I still say Ian Riccaboni and Taz could call Dynamite, or Ian and Caprice Coleman. They could mix some things up because I got to make some changes to commentary. That being said, it was less offensive than normal. So, we see an ambulance arrive, and Copeland, I refuse to call him Cope, that's stupid. Copeland shows up, and he's vowing to take out more of the Death Riders. So, then MJF does a pre-tape where he's in a clinic, knocking the fans for cheering Hangman when he's been there since day one. Well, he's been there since day one as well. And he's getting some kind of procedure on his calves. Hopefully not the Buff Bagwell calf implant stuff. And Longhorns are on some weird-looking truck. I don't know what brand of truck that is. It looks really fucking stupid. And it's Hangman in a squash match against Aaron Solo, and he beats him pretty goddamn quickly. Look, I'm going to say one positive about this. This is exactly what they should have been doing with various talents they wanted to get over. From the first episode of Dynamite, the pandemic, I understand. You had to work with what you had. They had the tapes and shows. Had to do what they could, but once they got back out in front of crowds, they should have been concentrating on a few people and stay letting matches that are 12 minutes, that go 12 minutes long, go that long, cut them to 8 minutes, and, anything that goes 15, if it can go 9, you have more chances to do video packages, more chances to do a few squash matches, and then, oh shit, he flattened that person, I see this person, this person got flattened last time, they got in a few more bits of offense. You can book this properly, and the formatting of the show was a little bit better. There are sparks of shit, they actually could be doing something right, but yeah, then they'll shoot themselves in the foot. That being said, it was quick, and Hangman basically gets upset. 3 things I hate: running out of biscuits and so on. He mentioned something else that I didn't quite catch, but then something about a little bitch running in his mouth. Calls out MJF, and MJF comes out with a bloody towel. You're all angry. Well, I'll fight you at Revolution, but not now. But maybe you should check on your friend. And then Hangman is looking around for Christopher Daniels because he's been beat up, and they made it seem like this is kind of an issue I had with the commentary. Shimai's like, he could be anywhere. It's a 7,500 seat arena. I'm not saying that you could find somebody in an instant. It's not monolithic. It's not the Greensboro Memorial Coliseum. It's not the Omni, which has been torn down. It's not a it's not Rupp Arena. It's not a giant arena. He finds him, gets some help. I do want to know who that paramedic was. It was a brunette. She was cute. Then, Callis and Fletcher are in the skybox. And earlier, Callis wants a bounty put out on Ospreay so he doesn't get to Revolution. And so now we get the bounty hunter, Brian okay, his name is Brian Keith. I'm going to call him Brian Queef until they get him away from Jericho. Because I don't want to see anybody associated with Jericho. Bill, Queef, I don't want to see goddamn Jericho. I don't want to see anybody in this, vortex that's terrible. That being said, Brian has, he has skills, and him and Ospreay had a decent match. They were in Ospreay. Maybe it went a couple minutes longer than it needed to, but it was what it was. I will say there's only a 1 minute overrun, so that wasn't the worst in the world. It was fine for what it was. Brian got a couple close near falls, and then a Styles Clash and Hidden Blade 1, 2, 3. And then Ospreay goes to attack Fletcher, who instead of maybe, leaving the skybox and running, decides to come down the steps and they're going to get in the fight. And it was brief. Recaps of the Mariah May, Tony Storm stuff, where, shout out to a friend of mine, he says, Tony held the tights. And I know who he's channeling, and I appreciate it. So, Momo Watanabe, or Watanabe, however you say it, she, we get a package for her. She has a shot against Mercedes. She's facing off against her Revolution. Mercedes suddenly shows up and starts talking, and I wish the power of speech was taken from her. I know that people can be in character and you can do what you want. At the end of the day, she treats herself like a star. More so than most companies should, because I've seen enough interviews with her to know that this is probably just who she is. Am I saying that she's the most awful person in the world? No, but I don't want to listen to her fucking talk. She's a fake, dumbass, goddamn, overpaid talent that I don't want to fucking listen to. Billy Starks is there. She got called up from Ring of Honor, I guess. And Momo was also there with her bat and whatever. I guess that's how we're going to get Mercedes and Athena, possibly, because Athena, by the way, has been in purgatory in Ring of Honor as a champion for about 2 million years. I think it's actually been 2, but nevertheless. The Outrunners got a VHS intro, not to be confused with the Anthology Horror Series VHS, or Anthology Horror franchise, that is. And then we see shots of them at an Omaha men's basketball game. Sports Center clips. They were elbowing a trash can for some reason. The Outrunners have made this work. I will say that much. I mean, I'm not totally on board with it, but I give them credit that they absolutely are, they're invested in the gimmick and they're trying hard. Is it a little over the top? Sure, but the crowd likes them. And I can appreciate what they do. They then took on the Murder Machines, a.k.a. Lance Archer, and the one that makes me wish that Machines would just commit murder so I didn't have to watch him, Brian Cage. Brian Cage can do athletic stuff. The problem is if I watch him for more than 2 goddamn minutes in the year of our Lord and Savior in 2025, I really don't want to goddamn see any more Brian Cage. The Hurt Syndicate end up distracting, and Lance Archer gets rolled up 1, 2, 3. They couldn't even roll up the meathead. Granted, he probably can't count to 3, but nevertheless. So, package on Swerve and Ricochet. Swerve gets a pop. He talks about his debut at Revolution. How he was going to become the world champion. He did. He made history. And he wants to get back to the top. Ricochet then shows up, gets lots of booze. I feel like drinking lots of booze whenever I hear him talk. Like, yeah, I'll give him cred. He's trying to lean into the fact that people can make fun of him because he really can't fucking cut promos and he gets outsmarted and outschooled on Twitter and doesn't want people jumping on the goddamn bandwagon. Don't worry, Ricochet, your wagon is going to die of dysentery. Pretty much like your butchering of the vocabulary. In fact, the power of speech really seems to elude him. So Nana has a contract, by the way, and is going to, or says, he talked to Tony Khan. A rematch. You beat Swerve, you get a title shot. Swerve beats you, he gets a title shot. And then Ricochet's like, well, damn it, fine, okay, I'll do it. None of them basically wants to talk to Swerve, and he says, look, you've done great. I'm glad that you're focusing on the title again, and I know you can be who I know you are. But I've taken a lot of bullets for you, and if you can't get my robe back, I don't know what, I don't know if I can do this anymore. So one of two things. Swerve is going to win at Revolution, or Swerve is going to, Nana's going to turn on Swerve, and that's going to take them in a different direction. But I'm sorry, Ricochet getting a world title shot. Ricochet is not a world champion, at least not in a major company. People might point out Lucha Underground, that wasn't a major fucking company. It was cool for the first 2 seasons, but nevertheless. Renee, by the way, I don't know who told her that butterfly outfit was a good idea, but that person should be decked. And if Renee thought that, then Renee, I think you need to see a psychiatrist. She tries to talk to Hangman. Hangman basically says, if I don't run you over, MJF, you're going to wish I did. Okay, he's channeling God. He's just channeling goddamn Caitlyn Jenner. I get, no, he wouldn't channel Caitlyn Jenner because Hangman has morals, unlike Caitlyn Jenner. And unlike anybody that votes like Caitlyn Jenner. That being said, so we get FTR and Garcia. Oh boy, oh joy. Well, they've given Garcia new tights. And I know he's been on Collision. I've seen a little bit of it, but that requires me to watch more Collision and watch more bullshit. They took on Cole, O'Reilly, and Strong, and they've been building this up where the Undisputed Kingdom wants a shot at the TNT title. For some reason, they think that Adam Cole should be that guy. Because Cole won with a roll-up. Oh, yes, and by the way, they're going to run Collision in Oakland, California, at the Oakland Arena that holds nearly 20,000. And WrestleTix had it at maybe a setup for 2,400. If you're not a math major, that's not very good. Run a smaller arena, because even if you can get a sweet, sweet rent price on that, that is demoralizing. I was at WrestleDream the last 2 years. I was at the first Dynamite, which had like 9,100, 9,500. We packed that goddamn place for what they had set up. Granted, it's an 18,000 seat arena, but what they had set up, it was big. And then they had Collision in that same venue, and it had about 4,000 people with the same setup roughly. And then WrestleDream the next night had 6,500. It's a great job. You managed to kill the goddamn town, because then they had Dynamite in a 10K arena in Everett, literally 20 miles from my house. And they ended, in fact, it might not even be, it might be 15 miles. But the whole point is that's 10,000 seats, and they had about 3,000 people there. And then the Spokane one, I think they had 3,000, maybe 4,000. I don't even think it was that much. I think it was like maybe 3,000, 2,500. And then WrestleDream, they had it in the monolithic Tacoma Dome, 6,300 people. My point is that if you can't promote stuff and you're not going to give people a product to really invest in, then what the fuck? And just a bad idea. They should have run something that held about 6,000 or 7,000. Claudio and Copeland brawl to the ring. Wheeler then shows up and hops over the barricade. Get back on the right side of the barricade where you belong, you fucking mop-top idiot. Wheeler does not belong in a ring. He is not good at what he does. He is really, really fucking infuriatingly puny and tiny and unbelievable. And he also looks like the fucking sheepdog from that Looney Tunes cartoon, except the sheepdog could beat the fuck out of him, and the sheepdog is a fucking animated creature. So Jay White then shows up. Marina Shafir just stands there slack-jawed, not knowing what to do, which kind of lines up with how Shafir's promos go, because we don't know her. We don't want to know her. And then eventually they get Claudio down and do a concerto. The concerto's overdone. Moxley, meanwhile, is held off by Jay White. He does get Wheeler to safety. Why couldn't you let Wheeler get beat up? Nobody would miss Wheeler. His parents wouldn't miss him if he suddenly went missing. That's mean, but I'm sick of Wheeler. Anyway, Willow shows up after it looked like Copeland was going to do a concerto to Shafir. She does a concerto. One of two things is going to happen. I'm going to talk about this a little more in my AEW Revolution predictions next week. Copeland's going to win and Christian's going to cash in. Or they're doing all this to try and build it up, and then everybody's going to show up and it's going to be a big schmoz. And I'm sorry, I have nothing against Copeland as a person, but I don't want to see him as world champion. I don't want to see Christian Cage as world champion. This Death Rider stuff has been terrible. The crowd was into this, at least as into this as they could be. I just don't have faith that they're going to know what the fuck they're doing, because this Death Rider stuff has been bad. And maybe it had to do with the fact that possibly Shane McMahon was going to come in. Maybe he wasn't. I don't know. I don't know if it's rumors, innuendo, inherendo. I don't know. Harley then took on Deonna Purrazzo while Taya looked on backstage, and it was fine. Deonna toyed with Harley. Harley kept getting a little flurry. Deonna kept toying with her. Did hit a stiff powerbomb at one point. And then they roll up out of the Fujiwara armbar for 2. And then, I don't know what the fuck it was. I thought she was going to go for a Scorpion Death Drop, and then she goes for like a bit of a twist. Harley does 1, 2, 3, and gets the victory over Deonna. Not a bad match, not a great match. It was what it was. I mean, Harley's over. Harley's improved. Harley's gotten better. She has a crowd on her side. She looks good. They maybe could do the puppet stuff a little bit more. But nevertheless, Marina and Claudio are loaded into an ambulance. You really can't tell what's stiffer, the backboard or Marina. So then Takeshita beat Orange Cassidy, and he feels like an afterthought in his own quest to defend his international title. They put Orange Cassidy in the main event 2 weeks in a row. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't care if this match only went maybe 11 minutes. It is embarrassing to watch Orange Cassidy at this point in the main event. It's not as embarrassing as some people, but if you like him, great. I will never like him. And I will never give him the time of day because he's the same goddamn character he's always been. And he's a character. He's not a wrestler. He's a character. Takeshita is one of the few they could build around. They really need to give him a 50% goddamn pay increase, and they need to push him towards a goddamn world title. Because he's an athlete. He looks good. He can definitely move a lot better than a lot of people that they've signed. Between him and Ospreay, that's a good duo right there that you could build around. That being said, that's all I got to say about Dynamite. So yeah, once again, if you're still watching, in a couple months, I'm probably going to be easing back on doing some of this stuff. If the interest is there, then I will still do, Dynamite reviews and stuff like that. I'm probably not going to do Collision all that often because I'm busy on Saturdays, and I got stuff to do, and there's WWE pay-per-views, and there's also just general tiredness because I work 9 to 10 hours on Saturdays. So anyway, yeah, Dynamite was what it was. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.